space for one more. There's space for one more. One more if you want to hold. There's one more. A couple of minutes, guys, couple of minutes. Right, he's only got a certain amount of time, so no questions from 7 sharp. Frivolous questions. And ask him, isn't it ironic that you're the earthquake minister? Don't ask him. Oh. What did you get, Tony? I wipe out in this dark.
Yeah, I had 5 radios in the house to play the bridge of that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just here today to announce an initial support package for businesses affected in particularly the Kaikoura and surrounding regions by the earthquake, and that package has been put together by Ministry of Social Development and MB, and it's to support businesses in the first period following these quakes where their businesses are very, very significantly affected, particularly by the closure of State Highway 1, both north and south of Kaikoura, and also by the sudden changes in the coastline, which has had a significant impact on the fisheries business. So the package, and we'll go through the details of the package in just a moment, it applies to the town of Kaikoura, but also Waiau, Cheviot, Ward, Mount Lithgow and Rotherham, and all the businesses, small businesses in those towns. It's for businesses with employees up to 20. It's modelled on the package we did for the Canterbury earthquake, with some differences. The Canterbury earthquake, it was very much on whether the businesses themselves could conduct their business. In this particular instance, it's actually whether there is any business left to conduct, i.e. with the roads actually closed in both directions. So if I pass over to Anne, she can give you some of the details on how it will work, and then we're happy to take some questions.
Thank you. So we're focused on businesses. Sorry? Speak up. So we're focused on businesses with 20 or fewer employees, and we're offering for full-time permanent employees $500 a week, and for part-time employees $300 a week. That's exclusive of GST. We're also funding a business coordinator on the ground. This will be administered by MSD, and of course MSD is in the hub that's being set up in Kaikoura that has all the services there. People can access it through the 0800 number that's being set up. That's the whole of government 0800 number, which is 779997. But people can also get help from the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce, the two district councils, Huranui and Kaikoura, and also Enterprise North Canterbury.
It's for an initial period of 8 weeks. We're very cognizant of the fact that that's not necessarily likely to be sufficient, but we want to start with an 8-week period, and ministers will review it before Christmas, hopefully once we have more information about when the highway, the progress on the highway and what stage it will be being able to be reopened again. And also we'll have much more information around the fisheries businesses and the state of the coastline as well. So initial 8 weeks while we gather more information, which is the sort of information that we all need to plan for the future.
Are you going to give any help to businesses who don't have insurance?
Yes, this will be for businesses of all types. We will ask them to use their insurance first of all, their business continuity insurance, but it applies to everybody else. That's the same as in Christchurch.
Anything for property damage for those uninsured companies, or is it all about wages?
This is about. We're really focused on maintaining people in work, in employment, for as long as we possibly can, whilst we have a look at what's going to happen in the future for their businesses with the roading. There's so much unknown at the moment. This is really focused on making sure we're supporting people to stay in work, so that when the recovery becomes clearer, their jobs are secure.
Because what people there are saying is that they can stay for a year.
Sorry?
People there are saying they're going to need support for a year. Businesses, they feel like they're really going to have long-term effects. So 8 weeks is nothing to that, right?
Well, I think there's a range of views in terms of how long it will take to recover, and I think that's exactly the issue. We don't have the information at this point. So we've started, Cabinet's agreed on an 8-week period to start with, but we are fully ready to extend that further, and hopefully, as you will recall, we did that in Christchurch when we had more information. And I think that's what we want to do here is say, okay, here's an initial 8 weeks. We're going to work on it again, make further decision prior to Christmas. Hopefully we'll have more information on the rehabilitation of the road, more information on the state of the aquaculture industry, and you're right, that might have to extend for a period of time.
What do you think we'll see business closures?
Well, it's a bit hard to say at this point because we don't know the answers to some of these questions, and nobody knows until such time as the engineering work's done and all those things in terms of what sort of impact there'll be on individual businesses. But we're determined through this package to maintain all the business infrastructure in place through this period, until such time as it becomes a lot clearer to everybody about when and where we're going after this.
What about income for business owners themselves?
This package is very similar to the one in Christchurch. which is directed towards employees, but it's provided on a per employee basis. It does include, for example, sole traders that pay themselves through the business, and would include where employers pay themselves through the business.
But you would expect other employers that wouldn't be included to have enough reserves to get themselves through?
Well, if they're working employers, they'll be included in the package.
What about tourism operators that have had infrastructure damage to their facilities that prevents them from running their businesses? What would be done to alleviate or support in that situation?
Well, obviously to some extent that's going to be handled by their own insurance. What we have learned
What
through...
about shared public facilities, for example, whale watch that goes off off public water?
Well, that's a separate part of this whole issue, and as you're already aware, we're doing quite a bit of work on that at the moment in terms of how quickly we can make that recover. But in terms of the employee support scheme, this is primarily about the loss of business and making sure the businesses are maintained. It's quite interesting that a lot of the businesses' premises have survived fairly well. That's where the distinction between here and Christchurch, perhaps. As in Christchurch, it was nowhere to do your business. In here on the coast, it's actually an issue of the business not being there anymore because the road isn't open and there's just no traffic, no tourism, and possibly no fisheries business either. So it's a different problem, but the solution is required is similar in terms of money for these people to be able to sustain their staff while the longer term is worked out.
Have you looked at...
Yes, there will be, and that's being worked through now, how we actually deliver that. And again, I refer people to the Work and Income website, which will have all the information, all the 0800 number for people to call and get advice, information, and in fact they would be able on that helpline to be able to apply for the emergency assistance that MSD provides in any emergency.
Have you looked at how or whether to support businesses with more than 20 employees? Because there's some bigger ones, particularly the tourism ones.
Yeah, we have looked at that. Again, we've followed the model in Christchurch. We've worked on the principle that larger businesses have a greater ability to sustain themselves through this period. But again, what we've learned from Christchurch is being able to remain flexible about this. One of the other things is that we haven't included some of the other towns that have had some impact from the earthquakes. And I've been talking to the local mayors of the Huranui district as well as the Kaikoura district and Marlborough. And we have agreed, for example, not to include Hamner Springs or Picton at this stage because both towns are fully operational. And in fact, the Mayor of Huranui wanted me to declare to you all today that Hamner Springs is open for business and is very keen for business to continue. But of course, we don't know what the trade patterns are going to be. We literally don't know how people are going to respond. So this is an initial 8 weeks in these towns, but we retain the flexibility to respond further if required, including in the ways that you just asked.
So
There will be a separate package announced by Minister Guy around farming.
When will that be?
In the next few days.
And that will be to help them.
Yep.
Well, for the farming sector and the primary sector, it is a little bit different. For example, in many cases, it's about finding people to help them repair things. So there's a slightly different approach that's being considered there, but Minister Guy will be in a position to announce that in the next few days.
So when you say businesses with more than 20 people, if they are struggling, they should come to government and put their case?
I think what we'll do is we will be keeping talking to them. There's not a huge number of them. We'll be keeping talking to them in the coming weeks. But I say, at this stage, we've taken the same approach as we have with Christchurch, which is focus on the small and medium-sized businesses that otherwise would go out of business. Again, this is a situation that's unfolding over a period of time, and we'll be talking to those businesses.
And what's the initial cost of this package? And obviously, it then extends.
You don't know how many people are going to take it up, but we estimate just over 7 million initially.
Initially for the 8-week period.
The
Yep.
8-week period.
So how many employees do you think might be involved here?
To give you a sense of it, there's about 1,000 people working as employees, including sole traders within this area. There'll be some, of course, that actually have increased business, but most will actually suffer loss of business. So we're expecting to use up to the 7.5 million, as Anne said, but we're ready to extend that if it's required.
The other issue is here in Wellington is some businesses already are saying some of the apartment blocks
Well, all these things are considered. This is a little bit different in Wellington, as I said yesterday, though, because you have the city operating, and in fact operating very well for the most part, with a few prominent exceptions. And it's not a case of Wellington's going to be closed up for an extended period of time because of this event. This is a situation where the whole of Kaikoura and also these surrounding towns are literally out of business for a period of time. And all businesses do deal with the challenges of weather and earthquakes and things. As well as having the earthquakes in Wellington this week, there'll be those that have been affected by the heavy rain and the flooding that occurred as well. And to a degree, that's a part of doing business, and that's the challenges that we all do when we deal with business. But these particular companies that we're talking about in these particular towns are going to have a sustained drop in their turnover to the point of almost nothing for a long period of time, and that's why we think it's appropriate for the government to step in.
But I would say to anyone who has been affected, who's not able to get back into their apartment, they should be in touch with Work and Income. We do have assistance available. Again, if they ring the 0800 number, we are helping people with accommodation. We have a special grant that we can give them for food and clothing, etc. So they should be contacting Work and Income to see what assistance is available to them in those circumstances.
So more for individual rather than
Yes, yes.
So you're not looking at anything Wellington businesses?
No, not at this stage.
So what sort of feedback are you getting from larger businesses, particularly the fishing and tourism businesses around Kaikoura?
There's a lot of concern, and not just from the businesses, but obviously their representatives in terms of the local mayors. And the big concern really is how long is it going to last? And I completely understand that, because that's very difficult. One day you're going on with your business and things are fine, your bookings are good, and then suddenly, whammo, it's not there anymore. And that's really what we're seeking to address through this package, is provide some certainty in the short term until we all have more information, and then we can help them plan their future. As Anne mentioned, we're also supporting them with a business coordinator, additional people, and working with the Chamber of Commerce to provide the sort of advice and support that some of these companies will need and businesses will need over the next period as they consider their options.
Will there be particular guidelines or benchmarks to determine who is eligible? I mean, you say significantly affected, but what does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's for businesses that have suffered a significant drop of turnover, we're going to rely on the good offices of MSD, but also the Chambers of Commerce to help us with that. They helped us in Christchurch. They were able to provide, to talk to the companies concerned and say, well, okay, these ones definitely are the case, these ones perhaps not so much. But look, it'll be a pretty permissive sort of approach. We're not out here to try and stop people from getting something which is going to keep their business going for a period. It's not it's not going to be a high compliance process.
If people need support for up to a year, will the government give that to them?
Sorry, what was that?
If people do need support for up to a year, will you give that to them?
I think it's just too early to say, Katie. I think we need to just take a little bit of time to get some better understanding of the engineering. I mean, we're putting on quite a lot of pressure with the transport people at the moment, and Simon as Minister, as everybody is, to try and get the information. That's critical, and we need more information on what's happened on the coast there as well. And Minister Guy is down there today, and he's been looking at some of that impact, and we're looking at arranging some additional scientific research to get a better handle on what's happening there. So it's just a bit too early to know how long it's going to take, but the government is certainly supportive, and we're very open to extending it beyond the 8 weeks.
How different is it for Kaikoura businesses down there, compared with Christchurch?
Well, it's different in the sense that the bigger problem is the loss of custom rather than how they can do business themselves. We have the telecommunications back now, we have some of the power back, there's still some issues with water. But for day 4, actually, a lot of the facilities they need and the infrastructure they need is returned. Unfortunately, the big one is the road, and it's in both directions, and it's going to be a long time.
When you say a long time, what's the latest on that?
There's literally no estimate yet. NZTA, I understand, I spoke to Simon this morning and last night. NZTA are still in the process of examining it, and they can't even examine it too much until it's stabilised to a sufficient degree that it's safe enough for people to go near some of them. So it's going to be a little while yet.
Have you any estimates of how important it is to have a through road for tourism and businesses?
Well, it's a little bit unknowable. I mean, obviously that's what we want, and that's what we're going to have to get back to. We don't know how many people will travel from Christchurch up to Kaikoura, either through the inland road or the coastal road. It appears that the highway south of Kaikoura will be back more quickly. That's the current estimate, but it's very much a sort of finger in the air thing. And so there will be undoubtedly some people that are prepared to travel north from north from Christchurch to Kaikoura and then back again. And again, that's a little bit unknowable at this stage. Okay. Thanks, folks.